Hey everyone, this is Lynn Bartown, and you are listening to the Apex Hour on KSUU Thunder 91.1. In this show, you get more personal time with the guests who visit Southern Utah University from all over, learning more about their stories and opinions beyond their presentations on stage. We will also give you some new music to listen to and hope to turn you on to some new sounds and new genres. You can find us here every Thursday at 3 p.m. or on the web at scu.edu/apex. But for now, welcome to this week's show here on Thunder 91.1. Okay, well, welcome everybody. Welcome in. It is such a pleasure to be back this week for the Apex Hour. This is Lynn Vartan. You're listening to KSUU Thunder 91.1. Today, I am joined by an incredible, we were saying Renaissance woman, but the list of things that she has done in her life and explored in her life is truly amazing. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation, but I want to tell you a little bit about why she's here on campus and what this event is. This is our second annual Artist in Residence collaboration. We're collaborating with our Southern Utah Museum of Art, Apex Events, of course, and the Grace A. Tanner Center for Human Values. So it's been a real pleasure to have her. She's here for almost a week, meeting with students and showing her work. We're going to be showing her film, which we'll talk about. But for the moment, I'd love to welcome to the studio Zareen Eskandar. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yay. Well, I feel like you're absolutely a kindred spirit, so I'm really looking forward to our conversation. But to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, I'd love to know kind of just a thumbnail sketch of where the child artist Zareen came from to where she is now. So if you could give us just a bit of a thumbnail sketch. I know it's like this huge wandering story that's so amazing, but just give us a few of the basics and then we'll dig in from there.
Well, I think I was always creative. My siblings as well, you know. So that's has always been there. I think everyone has that creativity, and that was just whether we choose to take it or not. So
you do feel that. You feel that everyone is creative.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I went to a talk by Antonio Damasio.
Okay.
He's a neuroscientist at USC.
Oh, okay.
And I don't remember the title of his book that he wrote this is 10, 12 years ago, where he talks about how human creativity is a necessary life function of the brain.
A necessary life function.
It's just like we are creative. I might be adding the word necessary, but he was like, it's a function of the brain.
Oh, I love it.
So
okay.
I'm paraphrasing. So
So
I think I was creative. So I just chose to take that path full on. And, honestly, I really wanted to be a race car driver.
No way, really? See, this is why this is why I say this. Really? Like NASCAR, like going around the track?
Oh, yeah. I grew up watching NASCAR and Formula One, so I loved that stuff. But then that was like just, I wasn't encouraged. Surprising as all the things I wasn't encouraged with that. And then I was like, okay, I want to be a pilot. And of course,
wow, you have the adrenaline gene built in, it sounds like.
No, not really. I'm actually I was a really cautious kid.
Really? But race cars and pilots and...
Yeah, I don't know. Those things, but at the same time, never climbed a tree because I didn't want to fall and break something.
Oh, okay.
So I have that. So, so then Dad was like, no to that. And I was like, well, then I want to be an architect. And that seemed like, okay, that's good. Go with that. So I went to design school. But I went to design school, though. I didn't study architecture, and I studied automotive design.
Oh, wow.
Which was absolutely amazing.
Really?
And I double majored that with interior design.
Oh, wow.
But I ended up working in architecture.
That's so cool.
Of all things.
Yeah, but so cool.
And then after my very first job after college, I quit my job. And I've been on an artist residency ever since.
Yeah, that's what we were sort of figuring out, that your entire life has been an artist residency. I mean,
it has.
That's amazing.
I also worked there was an internship for like 6 months, yacht design.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And so you have lived in several places, but one of the places that you have worked, been creative, and have been very connected to is Iceland. Mm-hmm. And so can you tell me a little bit about your time in Iceland?
Well, it's a desert. It's a big desert. So I went from Southern California's desert, which I absolutely love. It's my home, to that another desert. Yeah. And I'm looking for a next desert, actually, to spend some few years or months. Iceland, I was very stuck with my work when one of my mentors just told me to go to Iceland.
Oh, really?
And I did. And I was supposed to be there for a month. At the end of 2 weeks, I was probably in the most depressing place in all of Iceland that one could put a residency. Because now that I know all of Iceland, I'm like, this is the most depressing place you could have put in a residency.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it was mismanaged. It didn't have, anything, nothing. So at the end of 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm out of here. Uh-huh. But it took about like 4 or 5 days for the shuttle to come and pick me up and, like take me 6 hours back to the city so I can catch my flight to Los Angeles. Yeah. Like, get me back home.
Yeah.
But then I had such a great time when I got to the city over the 2 days I was there that I actually, like in 2 days, I just suddenly like felt like I met everyone that I should have met before, like an amazing arts community, especially at Listaháskóli, where, of course, Adam Taylor was.
Yes.
And so I decided to stay. And at the same time, what was happening was, I don't know what it is where we are here in Utah with the latitude, but in Los Angeles, the day varies a minute or two, right? It gets shorter or longer by a minute or two. And when I arrived in Iceland, it was getting shorter 6 to 7 minutes every day. So the time is just going chunk, chunk, chunk. You're just losing it, right? And then, so there was a month of October when I was there, and September, October. And so I was like, well, I just met these cool people. I'll just maybe stay here another month, see how the darkness is coming in. So then turned into November, and then I changed my ticket again, turned into December. And then I was like, oh, my 90-day visa tourist is up. I better go home.
Iceland sunk its teeth into you.
It's kind of like the same thing's happening to me in New Mexico right now.
Yeah, which I totally want to talk about as well. But I want to get into your work a little bit, and something that you just talked about led to a question I want to ask. But first, so that our listeners know a little bit about your work, you have a large body of work in photography. That's certainly not all of it, but can you describe your body of work, which I know is kind of hard to do because you have work in so many areas, but can you share a bit about how you view your body of work? You have photography, you have a lot of writing online, you have your work with video games, you have and then we'll get into the AI, but can you talk a little bit about the scope of your work as it exists as tangible artwork forms?
Well, there is a common thread, and as I said in my talk, it started from a social and environmental critique of architecture. So coming from an architectural background, and that's kind of that division that's created by architecture was my first critique of it. And why are we, placed in these, it separates the person from the self. It separates the family. It breaks a family apart. It separates society apart, so that's kind of how I was looking at it. And the reason I left my job in architecture was again the environmental critique of it and the lack of creativity in architecture at the time, when I wanted to design a new detail to be constructed for, I believe it was like, I can't remember. Anyway, part of the building that was being built. And I was told by my project manager that, oh, we've always done it this way, so just do it this way. Just copy it from, went and grabbed another construction set, and so I just copy it from here. I'm like, yeah, but this is not efficient. And, I know you've always done it this way, but this is going to require less of this. And, I just basically gave them like reason why maybe we should try this now.
Right.
And so I was like, I don't want to work in an environment like this where, this was in the early 2000s. So I was like thinking of where at that time I could, see like environmentally we need to start thinking about how we're working in architecture differently. And so I left that and joined Dimension 7 in San Francisco, which they were creating videos. They were the very first VJs, video jockeys, of the rave scene on the West Coast. And to me, looking at light as an architectural material, like that was my first break into this realm I am now, and in materiality, which is a topic I really like, was that I can just use screens and projectors and create new architecture instead of using these materials.
Right.
So that's been common in my work, and then from there, of course, it's all perception. So that's kind of what came out of that, is the perception that I have of my body as an architecture, or my, the architectural body, right? That I talked about. So the common thread in all of these that I'm exploring is, how am I shifting the boundary of my body within the different media that I'm working in? Right. So video and photography I started with video and then got into photography. I started with video.
I didn't realize that. And then you've done some music production and things like that. I saw that somewhere written. Where does that come in?
Are you referring to the music I make for my own work? I'm not, because I studied with a pioneer of digital granular synthesis. Yeah, Curtis Rose. So when I was doing my PhD studies at UC Santa Barbara, and that was for anything that I have learned over the years has not been for commercial purposes,
right?
Or pursuing them just for that alone. So I studied fashion design at City College in San Francisco, learned tailoring and pattern making,
right?
Just so I can use that in my own work,
right?
And so with music, I studied composition and analog and digital synthesis.
That's what I was seeing. I was noticing on your website, it talks about composition and sound design, and I was just curious.
I do those for my own work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when I'm working with clients for marketing and branding, I do use it for them as well, of course. Yeah. I do make their videos and I do design the sound for them. But, it does have its commercial value, right, of course, but it's primarily for my own work.
And there's even a clothing line in the works, right?
Yeah, I really need to do that. That's like 12 years old.
What's the clothing line like? Is it a women's line? Is it a unisexual line?
It doesn't have a gender, actually, now that I think about it, because because the body of work that it came from, I was working with, it's the body of work, the Architectural Oregon, which looks at the genderless post-human bodies. It was really I was so heavily into Octavia Butler and Ursula K. Le Guin at the time too. It's when I first was ever read female science fiction writers, which, now I make a deliberate effort to look for female writers, women writers in science fiction. But and in this kind of post-human society that I had envisioned, where you can be these beings that have architectural organs, you're actually genderless. So I was looking for someone who's androgynous to photograph. And this is before the whole androgynous model look and thing, long before that. And I connected with an amazing human being who's just, once I connected with her, it was just that's her preferred pronoun. It's I couldn't envision the work without envisioning her.
Yeah.
Karis is her name. But so that line of clothing came out at the same time. So it's genderless. But the whole idea, because at the same time I was studying origami. I spent a good year and a half just studying origami with all the masters. But you can teach everything. You're to yourself.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It's how can I take one seam and create a form with just one seam. So super minimal. Mm-hmm. And I made prototypes and little models and drawings. I just have to make it.
Okay.
I just have to make it.
Well, I want to
Did I answer your original question?
Yeah,
because I can
absolutely.
just go on.
I mean, well, that's the thing. I mean, your career has been so varied and so incredible that we could just go any direction and it just leads to something cool. But I just wanted to give our listeners, an opportunity to sort of get a snapshot of who you are and what you do.
I've definitely kept myself employed more than anyone else in the last 17 years.
That's so cool. I mean, that's what it takes, But when we come back, I'd love to get into some of more of the conceptual things that we've been talking about. But I have some music to play. And you might be surprised because this is a song that you were telling me. And this is I Try to Talk to You featuring John Grant.
Oh, that's a great music video, isn't it?
It is a great music video.
The camera and the dance choreography together, like the camera choreography.
It is really a cool music video, but we're going to listen to this. This is I Try to Talk to You featuring John Grant. You're listening to KSUU Thunder 91.
I could have taught you how to love yourself. I waited patiently. I hope that you will be the one to come to me. I tried to talk to you. I thought that you would recognize the need that you have deep inside, but you have to get there by yourself. I don't understand, help me please. Tell me everything and make me see. You know that I will give you anything. I take away your pain, yeah, I take away the sting. I don't understand, help me please. Tell me everything and make me see. You know that I will give you anything. I take away your pain, yeah, I take away the sting. You didn't have to go. You didn't have to add this to the mix. You let them use you good. Then they turn around and say you're sick. Is this what you deserve? You just a man, you are a human being. And will you listen now? This doesn't have to be the way things end. I don't understand, help me please. Tell me everything and make me see. You know that I will give you anything. I take away your pain, yeah, I take away the sting. I don't understand, help me please. Tell me everything and make me see. You know that I will give you anything. I take away your pain, yeah, I take away the sting. Help me please. Why don't you come to me? I don't understand, help me please. Tell me everything and make me see. You know that I will give you anything. I take away your pain, yeah, I take away the sting. I don't understand, help me please. Tell me everything and make me see. You know that I will give you anything. I take away your pain, yeah, I take away the sting. I don't understand, help me please. Tell me everything and make me see. You know that I will give you anything. I Take away your pain, yeah, take away the sting.
All right. Well, that cool song was called I Try to Talk to You. And the original artist or artist on record for the song is Hercules and Love Affair, and it's featuring John Grant. And we got to talking, Zareen Eskandar and I got to talking about John Grant, who's an artist that you really like. Isn't that right?
His voice is beautiful.
I know,
It's
it's gorgeous.
soft,
Yeah. And he's an American artist living in Iceland? Is that right? Or
That's right.
yeah, cool.
I don't know much more than that, though.
Okay, well that's
Yeah.
enough. Well, check him out. It was
Like,
new to
it's
me.
like everyone within my community somehow knows him. I haven't crossed paths with him. That's what's really nice about Iceland.
Ah,
It's like there's no concept of celebrity there,
yeah.
and you eventually meet everyone.
Ah, I love that. It's like a really great
I've
sense
been
of
at parties
community.
where Bjork is just hanging out.
No way.
Yeah, you do not go up to her and say hello, though. You just
Oh,
don't
really?
Do that. No, you can't do that.
Okay.
But I know one American girl who got really excited and went up to her, and Bjork was just not having it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're at your own private party, then it's like you don't want to be bothered.
Yeah,
I get
totally.
it. So, well, I have so many questions about art, but one of the things we were talking about is when you have been heavily involved in working on a video game design. And that video game has a intent to sort of teach some things or get into some things about patterns. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I should say that has been on hold because it took like I said, a hard turn into becoming my company.
Right. Okay.
But I really want to go back and develop that game. So, it is meant for a younger audience, though anyone can really play it, but the language that we're using is really to attract a younger audience. And it's meant to help them break from a linear pattern of time. So
Okay.
the labyrinth it's called the Clocksmith's Labyrinth.
Oh, cool title.
And I thought so too. Thank
Oh,
you.
I love it.
My friend came up with it, Magnus in Iceland. But labyrinths are pretty popular in all cultures through centuries
Right.
and in games.
Mazes.
Yeah, but they're physical things
Mm-hmm.
that you go through. And I wanted to create a temporal labyrinth. And for me, it was to explore visually and aesthetically time travel beyond
Oh.
what we generally see. But then I thought if I'm able to successfully create this temporal labyrinth and a good narrative for it, for the player to go through, maybe it can help them start experiencing and seeing time and questioning their environment differently. I mean, when you think about how many of my generation will say, what's the most influential game you had? If we're architects, we're going to be like Legos.
Yeah.
So the toys and the games, the video games that we've had as children later on do affect us in positive ways of the careers that we choose or
True.
the interests that we have later in life or the puzzles we solve later in life.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted to create something. I was like, physics, the photographer who came and just talked to me right after, he's like, he brought up time is a huge issue in physics. I'm like, yeah, I know. I've talked to Sean Carroll about it.
Right. Yeah.
What if some of these topics in physics and astrophysics, these things or even their philosophical maybe problems that we still have that are time related, can be solved in 30, 40 years by a child that was playing this game that I've developed that's allowed them to break linear time.
Yeah.
So that's really,
That sounds amazing. I hope that project, I hope it comes back into your life,
I hope so too, because what's also happened in the last 4 years since I put the game on hold, Unreal has come out with such much more amazing technology for environments, because it was building the environments that stopped me. I was like, I don't want it to be CG. Using video is going to be just ridiculous. And, the generative stuff looks generative. So what do I do? And that's how I got into AI. But now Unreal just has absolutely amazing technology out there. They're not paying me for anything. I'm not, but
yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Well, one of the things that we got to talking about when we were discussing this was how how humans deal with pattern recognition. And are we good at pattern recognition? Are we bad at pattern recognition? And I wonder if you could comment on what you have found about pattern recognition in humans, because you were saying that that's something that you're particularly aware of in your own life. And so I was just curious about if you could comment on that first, and then I have a follow-up question.
I am particularly good about that. And my mother is too. I think we're particularly good at being bad about it in general because we don't pay attention.
Right.
We're not perceptive to the degree that we can be.
Right.
For whatever reason. And we think, oh, I'm crazy, maybe too much.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I've never studied it or looked into it, into its whys.
Well, but then my question is like, how do we develop, if that's something we are categorically bad at and
paying attention.
So the way to develop better pattern recognition is to just pay attention.
I think it's paying attention, but it's also being broad in our interests as well. Because if you know a little bit of this and a little bit of that, not like being masters in things, but if you just understand this is how this functions, this is how that functions. Of course, human behavior always goes into that, and understanding those things, you can connect it. Can it be? That's a good question. If it can even be taught, I'm sure it can. It's probably what investigators would go to school for.
Yeah, I just wonder about that, because, and I wonder how people can manage that in our current, we're so tied to so many things that just pull attention rather than allow for awareness. And
you're absolutely right.
So do you have any insight on that, or comments on should we all throw away our phones? I mean,
no, I'm totally pro technology, but definitely turn off the notifications. You don't need to know every little like you got on Instagram and have that exactly say draw your attention.
Yeah.
And then that absolutely opens up your attention for other things. But I mean, I'm not one to criticize this generation. I actually think every generation's amazing, brings its own things, and I love the younger generations. And I'm not to say, oh, this technology does that, and I'm not negative towards those things in any ways, but the combination of things that are happening definitely are drawing attention away more.
Yeah.
Than before. But being inquisitive, being slightly suspicious.
Yeah.
Being slightly those things are good.
Yeah.
Paying attention to your environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Learning human behavior.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you were talking about Iceland, we've been talking quite a bit about time, and I know that and you were talking about the game, the temporal time travel in the game. And one of the things I've been really curious about your work with time and your perception of time. And I was noticing when you were talking about Iceland that you were saying that in your time, in the time that you spent there, that incrementally the day would get shorter and shorter and chunk and chunk and chunk and chunk. And it seems that some of your photography work, when you got into the concept of real time lapse, starts to do that as well. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what is real time lapse, because that's sort of a defining part of at least a certain time in your work. What is it? What does that mean?
That work happened before Iceland. That was work that I started right after my MFA.
Okay.
And before I had gone on to my next graduate program. And so I was in this space in between. Oh, actually, I totally forgot. I did go immediately into an architecture PhD program. I was invited to go in, but I was like, this is not for me. So I just kind of checked out of that and started focusing on my photography in the landscape. And I don't honestly remember the string of thought, or the thought process of what led me to that kind of fateful question of what does all of time look like? it's because my whole concept, maybe it was around still coming from me looking at the limits of the body and thinking, what kind of body would I have to be to experience all of time? I assume that was the thought process. And it took me a year and a half of trying until I got the right image. I had tried this technique of putting all of time in one image in many different locations around the Mojave that I was hanging out and working at the time. And none of them really came in, but each time I would develop one image, I would be like, oh, okay, I can, critiquing your own work is really important. I could critique my own work and be like, okay, this is what I need to change about the next one, until I hit on the right image. And it took me a long time to be able to come up with a name for it. And I don't remember how I came up with real time lapse. Part of it is that the time, oh dear. It's like I didn't study my own work about this. It's like part of it was that time is not lapsing necessarily as a regular time lapse would. It's real time, but space within the time is lapsing, even though you get the picture of the whole space in the image.
Yeah.
But it's the space that's lapsing. It's not the time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's a real time, but it's a space lapse.
That's cool.
So some people have called it time in parallel, time slices. Yeah, I mean, that method of work did not exist until I put that out.
Yeah.
So it didn't have a name. And I'm like, I have to come up with a name.
Well, the results are so beautiful. I mean, those images from that period are just so striking. And they are, I can see where people say the slices, because they are sort of slices of time. That brings me to another question. And that is the concept of beauty or aesthetic beauty in your work. Is that something that you think about in art? You know, oh, this work is beautiful as I see it? Or is it more purely an expression of an idea to you?
I do think of what the early work I did. I didn't even think of the composition too much in the sense of where am I putting my horizon line? You know, I mean, I'd put it where I was like, okay, I'll just, that frame looks good. I'll do that. But then what the result was going to be was an absolute surprise to me. And it turned out to be, if I may say, a beautiful image. I mean, that, and I say that others say that. You know, people respond so strongly to that image, and it's done really well. It's like that image has funded a lot of things for me.
Yeah. Well, it's very striking.
I've been lucky
yeah.
with it, but I didn't think of, I'm going to create a beautiful image. I was creating an image for a concept.
Right. And that's my question. Is that a thread that continues through your work? Does creating something beautiful come into play?
It's beautiful as a result of if it works for the concept. It works for the concept.
Yeah.
And so in this sense, it worked for the concept, but it turned out to be a beautiful image. But maybe they go hand in hand. I don't know. Maybe because it is a beautiful concept, people find it to be a beautiful image as a result.
Yeah.
But then later on, it's led into my regular landscape photography. But that was also concept driven. And if you look at the image as it is, like that horizon line is smack in the middle. Like every, traditional old school art teacher is going to tell you, like, the rule of the thirds. I'm like, no, I'm putting that horizon line right in the middle.
Yeah.
And even if the landscape has a slope, I'm going to fake it and put that line perfectly straight in the middle.
Yeah.
But that's because of the concepts. Like if I'm standing and looking at the landscape, first of all my landscapes are not landscapes either. The new ones, they're all vertical. Because if I'm just standing there looking, and maybe you see differently than me, I don't know. It's like that same old question, do we see the same green? I don't know.
Right.
So that horizon is going to be in the middle of your view. It's going to be there. Like if you follow it back, it's not going to be here. So there's no rule of thirds. It's going to be in the middle.
Right. As we see it.
And as you see it, this is in focus. And you're more inclined to go up and down when you're looking, Right. And you're going to see, even if you just look straight ahead, you're going to be seeing this is in focus.
The center.
This is in focus. The sixth, vertical to get the traditional landscape view. And this is actually in the essay of my books that were here. Like, to get that traditional landscape that we all see, we'd have to turn our head like this. I mean, yeah, we do that. But if I just stand and stare, it's this.
Right. That's true. I never really thought about that.
They turned out to be really beautiful landscapes. Not everyone, they love them. I'm like, yeah. Thanks.
Well, this leads us to a great opportunity for another song. But before we do that, I'm sure there's some people that are like, okay, I want to see this work. So if people are looking for a way into your work and don't know you and don't know your work, where should they go and what should they look at first? Or do you have a preference?
My Flickr.
Okay.
Because that just kind of, recently I've started putting edited pictures on it, but there's older pictures that are just not edited. But it shows kind of where I am, what I'm doing, and kind of, some of my landscapes are there, watermarked, some are not. Where I'm living is always there, my experiences, but my websites.
Okay, and your website is zareen.la, is that right?
That's right, and that has links to my writing and my works, and it's kind of a website I know how to navigate. It's got a bunch of icons. People just have to click on it, they'll find it.
Yeah, and that's XARENE.LA, I think is the website, if that's right. So check it out, everyone. Okay, it's time for another song. This is another one, and this song is called Think About Things. And the artist, it's an Icelandic artist, and the name is, the first name is DAOI.
DAOI?
Yeah, and the O has two little dots over it, and then FREYR.
Oh, it's not Daði Freyr?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is.
Okay, it's not an O. There's a D there. There should be a D.
Well, okay.
I thought Daði is Daði Freyr. Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm just looking at it on here, but it's the one that we were talking about that you say has been all. Yeah, that's it. And the song is called Think About Things. So check it out, everyone. We're listening to Icelandic music today. See what you think. You're listening to KSU Youth under 91.1.
I'll always be there. So. I know I love you. I find it hard to see how you feel about me. 'Cause I don't understand you. Oh, you are yet to learn how to speak. When we first met, I will never forget. 'Cause even though I didn't know you yet, we were bound together then and forever. And I could never let you go. I can't wait to know. What do you think about things? Believe me, I will always be there, so you can tell me anything and I'll listen.
Okay. Well, that is like such a cool song. I love it. It's got such a good vibe to it and a really trippy modulation to the end. That song is called Think About Things. And Zareen was absolutely right. I just do not know how to read the Icelandic alphabet very well. So it's, yeah, really? So it's D-A, and it's a D.
Yeah, it's a D with a little slash through it. It's a the sound.
Right. And so D-A, and then that D with the I, and then the last name is F-R-E-Y-R. And the song is called Think About Things. So if you're interested, check it out. This is Lynn Vartan. You're listening to the Apex Hour, and I'm here back in the studio with Zareen. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to talk about some of the other cool aspects of your life. And I want to start with where you are living because I'm super jealous and I love it. But can you tell everyone a bit about, well, where, not that anybody could find it, right? Where do you live?
In the Zuni Mountains in New Mexico.
And you're completely off grid.
I'm off grid unless I go down to the main road where there's some accommodations there. There's an RV park that has really cute cabins in this is El Moro, New Mexico. So if I go down there at the Ancient Way RV park, there's cute cabins. So like I was there this past week because I'm like, I need stable internet and power before I go to Cedar City because I need to finalize my talk here. So
yeah,
but I'm in the Zuni Mountains, and my living conditions are something that they've varied between things I've always wanted to try out. And I went originally to New Mexico for 2 months to work with someone, and then that came to an end, and I just kind of went back to Los Angeles. And then I just kind of sat there like, I think I'm going to go back to New Mexico.
Yeah.
Because, I still want to explore it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a month later I flew back, and I was going to drive, they call it the land of enchantment, the joke that this is land of entrapment.
Oh.
So the first time I left, I came back a month later. The second time I planned to leave, like literally the land killed my car.
Oh.
Like sub-zero temperatures.
Oh my gosh.
Sub-zero.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my car just like, and it was down. I was like, well, there it goes. Because after I left here, I was going to just go drive back to LA.
Yeah.
Killed my car. I was like, oh no, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's the magic of that land though. And as I'm there, my story was just echoing, through other people. When I asked them, how'd you get here? Why, it's like, yeah, I just came here and I stayed. So the first place I stayed was in a straw bale house on 65 acres as the person's parents who I was working with. They had the empty house, and I just stayed there because there's no accommodation there. It's not like you can go there and rent a place.
Right.
So you just kind of, so that's the first way the land kept me, is like it just keeps offering me these free places, awesome places to live. So I just like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to live in like this kind of situation.
Yeah.
And then I stayed in these gorgeous COP buildings, mud, straw, absolutely gorgeous architecture, and the Zuni Mountain Sanctuary, which is where the Radical Fairies are.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this wood shack made of super cozy inside.
Yeah.
All the accommodations, but made from just found wood.
Wow.
And a repurposed RV that's now permanent on this gorgeous, hand laid rock foundation by an amazing artisan there, Navajo artisan who does amazing stonework. And then what else? Yeah, just like kind of been rotating through these kinds of living situations.
But so
living off grid, learning homesteading skills.
Yeah. So like you must be solar power.
Solar.
And you were saying, I mean, what are the creature comforts? None.
No, everything. We have internet and we have power and we have running water. What else do you need?
Well, that's true. Good point. Good point.
We have outhouses.
Yeah.
I can take a nice hot shower, like really hot shower.
Oh, good.
But everything has to be planned. So our solar panels, there's of course the ones that are on the roofs. You can't change those. So they're going to get, depending on the battery system that you have set up, you're going to have so much battery depending on what's drawing on it. So your battery can go out at 8 o'clock or at 11 o'clock at night, or maybe 2 in the morning. You don't know. It all varies. These are everything. No one's not like everyone's just done what they can.
Right.
Through knowledge that's in the community.
Right.
And which is amazing. So the solar panel that, for example, rotates, like once the second day I was there, I learned if I want power to be working on my computer and have internet late into the night, I need to get up and get out there and move that solar panel with the sun. So as soon as the sun would pop out, and it'd be freezing cold, like I'd have to struggle to push the solar panel, rotate it, just because it's frozen in place. And so I'd check it out every day, go check it and rotate it. And then you have to figure out, okay, how much water is in the cistern. And
that's awesome.
I was like, can I take a shower? Can I do this? How much power am I going to draw if I run the washing machine?
Is it a very solid, is there a solitude aspect? I mean, do you feel lonely? How does it feel from a personal standpoint?
I love solitude. When I'm in Iceland, I pack my truck. Baxter is his name. And I'll go out into the wilderness where it takes a day for anyone to come to get to me.
Yeah.
And for anywhere from 3 weeks to 6 weeks, whatever, I've stayed out there. It's like I'm the only person to talk to. So you have, it's like you have to really like yourself.
Yeah.
Be able to entertain yourself, not get bored. And not get depressed, not feel lonely and get sad about, So, thankfully I can manage all of that really well. I love the solitude. I mean,
It's probably very creative also.
It's, I don't end up wasting my time.
Yeah.
What's lovely is like there's chores that need to be done in the morning, because when you're out living in these properties, like one of my friends, this badass 70-year-old Jessie Gray, like she gets up at 4 a.m, but by 9 a.m, she's done everything, and the rest of the day she just chills. But you got to feed the animals, you got to just do what you need to do to make the property function. All these things that in a city is taken care of for us.
That's right.
But it's really lovely to have this experience, to be like, okay, I got to go make sure that chickens are taken care of and feed this, and the animals put you on even if in an urban, your animals put you on a schedule.
Right.
So now add more to that, and add the things that you have to do, and then like I was saying, you can go to bed at country midnight, which is 8 p.m. or that's when you fill your time with
other things.
Yeah. So that's important.
Well, you have another great passion in your life that has given you so much community and excitement and adventure. And that's the rallies that you go on with the Gambler 500 group. So I'm sure some of our audience has heard of that and understands it, but some don't. So can you tell us, what is that about? What is that world?
The Gambler 500. Well, 500 miles and a $500 hoopty. I mean, that's not, the $500 isn't, but the cheaper your car is, the more fun you have. But it's basically, it's the largest trail cleanup in the U.S. I don't know the numbers, but it's like massive tons of trash that we the community have picked up during our rallies from BLM land, public lands, national forests, and in some states they just love us. I know, for example, one of the coordinators in Washington just got a $5,000 grant from Olympic National Forest to organize his events for the trail cleanups. And so it's common,
And is it just once a year, or is it more often depending on?
Oh, it's as often
as you want.
It's all over the U.S. I just started the New Mexico chapter back in I started it. Yeah, our first one was December, and next one's coming up March 28th. And it's as I think there's how many states wouldn't have it still? I think New England, those states don't have.
Maybe.
Vermont, someone organized the first one, Vermont.
Oh,
Some
cool.
states, but what's been interesting is it's shedding light on issues of public access to public land.
Right.
Private ownership. That's also reduced access to public lands for various reasons, like easements, or just there is no public land, like places like Ohio, Virginia, Pennsylvania. It's like, well, they've all just been mining and this and that. And it's like, there is no public land to just go out and have fun. And then, or they're confined into like off-road parks. It's like, no, it's not the same.
So it sounds like it's like the best of all worlds. It's like great people, great adventure, off-roading, there's parties, it's a great cause. It sounds like it's all these things.
It is. It's brought an incredible group of people from all walks of life.
I read an article that
together.
said it was like Mad Max, but with way nicer people.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't. It's like the other. Yeah, it's a different class of people.
Yeah.
It's
And so if people want to get involved in this or like, yeah, that's like, because you found it by saying like, oh, these are my people, I want to know more. If people are listening and want to find out more, how do they find out about Gambler 500?
Gambler500.com.
Okay.
And the Gambler 500 rally group on Facebook, and Utah has Gambler 500. If they just look up on Facebook, I believe it's Cameron Avery. If he's listening.
Yeah. Okay.
I think he's the coordinator, if I'm not mistaken.
And most of these vehicles have names. Yours has a name.
Mine has a name, Dreki Blanco.
Where did that name come from?
From my friend's Facebook comments.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
So in Iceland, these cars are called Amerískur Dreki,
Okay.
American Dragon.
Oh.
So one friend commented that when I said, hey, I need to name him now. And another friend commented Caballo Blanco, white horse.
Yeah, right.
And then I was like, oh, Dreki Blanco.
Oh,
And
White
it just
Dragon.
fit together so good.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I have my last song to play, and it is called Chevy Impala.
Yeah.
So that's the link. And it's a really interesting artist that I found recently. Her name is Lolo and then Zouai, Zouai. So yeah, check her out. See what you think. KSU Youth under 91.1.
'Cause I've got all the time. When the sun sets, I don't mind. 'Cause when I wake up, I'll be in my Chevy Impala. Little rider, I want the 20-inch rims. That old school whip. 2 yellow dice on my rear view. Stuff in the trunk, I can't hear you. I'm in my Chevy Impala. Chevy Impala. Tell me why you try to holler. Did you say hello? I'm a Pisces, I got feelings that I can't control. Don't take myself too serious. Tough body, soft interior. What I make these tips for? Almost like a 6'4". And when the sun sets, I don't mind. 'Cause I've got all the time. When the sun sets, I don't mind. 'Cause when I wake up, I'll be in my Chevy Impala. Little rider, I want the 20-inch rims. That old school whip. 2 yellow dice on my rear view. Stuff in the trunk, I can't hear you. I'm in my Chevy Impala. Chevy Impala. Everybody looking at my ride. Everybody looking at my ride. All the boys, they Impala. Yellow rider, I want the 20-inch rims. No school with 2 yellow dice on my rear view. Love in the trunk, I can't hear you. I'm in my Chevy Impala, my Chevy Impala.
Bounce like a 6'4". 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 Bounce like a 6'4".
All right. Well, that was Chevy Impala. I really like that song. And that artist is Lolo, Lolozouai is her name. And the song is called Chevy Impala. So we are almost out of time here, which is just always blows my mind how quickly the time goes. And I have so enjoyed talking to Zareen. Thank you so much. We want to make sure to plug your website again, which is Zareen, XARENE.LA. So be sure to check it out. But I have my final question for you. Are you ready? It's a very serious question. And it's not. It's just a very playful question. It's an opportunity for our audience to get to know you a little bit more. And the question is like, what's turning you on this week? And it can be anything. It can be a movie or a TV show or a book or whatever. It could be your favorite brand of lipstick. It could be anything you want. So Zareen Eskandar, what is turning you on this week?
Well, the badass 70-year-old I told you about, Jessie Gray, she brews beer with herbs.
Oh, how cool.
And I am looking forward to her beer with mugwort.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And can you really taste that? Because I've had beer with jasmine in it and you can.
Oh, you can taste it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she has beer with oregano. You can taste it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. She uses, yeah. So I'm looking forward to that because she's also going to teach me her brews because she lives off grid.
Yeah.
And, she has this little Airstream set up where she's brewing in and making her chocolate and whatnot.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like she's streamlined it.
Yeah.
It's minimal. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
It's been such a blast to have you. And thank you so much for your time and for being on the show with me.
It was my pleasure.
I love your work. I can't wait to
Thank
see
you.
what you do next. I mean, it's like I'm going to be a long-term fan following you all throughout your career. So thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. All right. We'll see you all next week. Thanks so much for listening to the Apex Hour here on KSUU Thunder 91.1. Come find us again next Thursday at 3 p.m. for more conversations with the visiting guests at Southern Utah University and new music to discover for your next playlist. And in the meantime, we would love to see you at our events on campus. To find out more, check out suu.edu/apex. Until next week, this is Lynn Vartan saying goodbye from the Apex Hour here on Thunder 91.1.